If you're into games and gaming news, you've come to the right place. Who am I, you ask? I am the Wiz! And I'm going to touch super quickly that I have been playing Fights in Tight Spaces. And again, I've been saying these same things all week. Fun game, like Slay the Spire, will be a comfort food game for me from now on. So we don't need to get much more into that. But before I get into the news, one of the biggest sales of the year for gamers is going on right now. That's the Summer Steam Sale. In this segment, I want to recommend a few titles that I think you should pick up at their discounted prices. Starting with Battle Chef Brigade, 65% off for $6.99. This game is a puzzle game slash cooking game slash character action game. The character action game part is not that in-depth, but it's fun and it's engaging. And the way they mix the puzzle elements with the character action game is actually a lot of fun. And I like the style of it and everything. It's a very clever, very cute, but really fun game. And I think for $7 and you haven't checked it out, I say do it. Go ahead and check it out. $7 is a great deal for that. Next one is Gone Home, 60% off for $5.99. I reviewed this way back in the day, like 10 years ago. And I still have memories of this game and how it affected me after I played it. Like, I literally cried at the end of this game. It was so damn good. If you have not experienced Gone Home, and you probably didn't do it because of the price, it was $20 when it first came out. It's now, I think, $15, and it's on a discounted sale price of $5.99. Come on, you should check it out. You should pick it up. It's a really good game. It's 2 hours long. That is the price of a movie rental right there. Perfect price for it. I would say go check it out. Next one is Gunpoint, 50% off for $4.99. This is a goofy platforming slash strategy game. I played, again, I think more than 10 years ago, but I had a blast playing this. I'm probably going to play it again at some time as well. So it's for PC only. I don't know why they've never put this on console. It really should be on console. But this was a blast to play, and funny too. One of the few games that does comedy right. It's a ridiculously good time game. So if you haven't played this game yet, check out Gunpoint for $4.99 on sale at the Steam sale right now. Next game, Little Inferno, 75% off for $3.75. These are the same people who did World of Goo. I think it's called the Tomorrow Corporation. This is a cute kind of puzzle game where you have to match certain elements into a fire to make them burst a certain way. It's silly, and it has some really funny style of index or codex things in there as well. But for like a slight puzzle game for like $4, this is fun, and this will last you a couple of hours. And I would say definitely check it out if you want something like that. That's $3.75 for Little Inferno. And finally, I think biggest game that I want to recommend to you if you haven't picked it up yet. If you're one of the few people who like action RPGs, but you haven't picked up Diablo 4 yet because it's way too expensive, I think this, even though I am enjoying Diablo 4, I think this is better, and I think this is one of the best ARPGs I've ever played, and that's Grim Dawn. The base game is 50% off for $12.49. If you want to get the game and all the expansions, it's 47% off for $34.39. I gotta say, like, if you are into ARPGs, especially ARPGs like Titan Quest, I cannot recommend Grim Dawn anymore. The world that is in is really fascinating. The combat's really good. The loads of customizations you can have in this is really good as well. And the expansions are excellent in this. So if you know you like ARPGs and you want to play a new one and you haven't played this yet, buy it now and buy the expansions. It is a great game. If you want to go for a build, that's fine. I didn't, and I had fun doing it while having a non-optimal build. So I think this is a fantastic game. Check out Grim Dawn if you haven't. It is a blast, and I love playing it. So why don't we just get into the news now from June 29th to June 30th, starting with Pokemon Go developer Niantic has laid off 230 people, citing the reason being that games haven't met their internal goals, according to an email that Kotaku acquired from studio founder John Henke. I think this is an email that he sent out to those employees affected by the layoff, and Kotaku, I guess, received it at that point. Because of the shakeup, the game NBA All World will cease development, and Marvel World of Heroes, which was I think announced last year, has now been canceled. The report obtained by Kotaku states that the revenue grew dramatically during the pandemic, but has since led the company to have more expenses than revenue after the lockdowns ended. This is really not a surprise in my eyes. Pokemon Go had unbelievable sales during the throes of the pandemic, and like many companies that hired up during that time, a bloodletting was bound to happen if they couldn't keep the revenue goals up. Various tech companies have already laid off thousands, but I think this is just the beginning for layoffs in the video game sector. The pandemic led to many people buying consoles for the first time and engaging in VR headsets and mobile games just to get them past the boredom of being locked up. The big problem was that gaming companies felt that with these people they got, that they were going to stay gamers, which really was not the case of what was going to happen in this. And when the lockdowns ended, they just went back to the things that they were doing before. Simple as. Like I said, this is likely the beginning of it. I suspect in the next few years, even when sales and revenue are good, we will likely see much more layoffs in console manufacturers and big corporate studios. And I think we will also see a bunch of smaller studios either get sold to stay afloat or shut down due to the costs. I'd like to have better news than this, but honestly, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. So apparently, Crash Team Rumble ain't doing so well, if you are looking at Twitch metrics, that is. According to Video Gamer, viewer counts on the game can be seen in the double digits. 40 is the most recent seen in one report, whereas Twitch Tracker says that the average number of viewers for this game specifically is around 316. But then again, is this really a surprise? Crash doesn't have the ubiquitous appeal that Mario has. Crash players want a platformer and maybe a kart racing game, and that's about it. A platform MOBA isn't exactly what people who like Crash have in mind, and the results right now show that very clearly. In fact, I would also like to point out that the game has numerous things against it. First, it wasn't marketed very well. Some gamers still have no idea what the game exactly even is. And since it's a 4v4 competitive game, most games of that type are now expected to be free to play, which the game isn't. It's $29.99 as of this recording. Now, that's not necessarily a problem. Some multiplayer games do require a purchase, but when you buy it, you have it, and that should be it. That's not so with Crash Team Racing. The game is littered with microtransactions and battle passes on top of the game itself. And one more problem. Critics were mixed on the game as well. OpenCritic has it at a fair 70, with 48% of critics recommending it, and they cite that while the game can be fun, it lacks other modes and it's rife with predatory microtransactions. This likely spelled doom for a game that wasn't getting a lot of buzz to begin with. There is talk that the game will likely be shut down by the end of the year, and I can see why people think this. I do want to push back a little on that. I think the game will go free to play by the end of the year. Then, if it doesn't pick up in numbers, it will likely shut down by mid-year 2024. I'd give it like June or July, I would say. And let's get into the final stories, but these all revolve around the Microsoft vs. FTC hearing regarding the purchase of Activision Blizzard. Let's get into what might be the goofiest story involving. When these hearings take place, both sides have to reveal evidence to state their cases. This often leads to documents that have very sensitive information that can affect the standing of the business, such as technology being created or the way a deal is structured. But to mitigate harm, the people in the suits can present that evidence, but also omit and redact information from the public record. Well, I'm telling you this because when Sony redacted some of its evidence, they didn't do such a good job. In court documents that were filed in the hearing, Sony poorly redacted documents that revealed some interesting tidbits. First, the budgets of some of their biggest titles, The Last of Us 2 and Horizon Forbidden West. Both games took 5 years to make and roughly the same amount of money. $212 million for Horizon with 300 employees, while The Last of Us 2 was $200 million with around 200 employees. Now, that isn't surprising, and of course, the games did well to make up the principal budget. But if you aren't aware of how entertainment budgets work, you'd forget about the marketing, which isn't included in the production of the game. Rule of thumb when it comes to marketing is that the more expensive a product is, the more expensive the marketing is. Since you want to maximize the amount of people, you want to engage the product by buying as much marketing as possible. In big budget movies for Marvel, for example, movies can often climb in a budget to around 150 to 200 million, but to market it to a worldwide audience, the amount needed just to break even just doubled. For Horizon Forbidden West to break even, for example, it likely needed about $430 million to do so. And of course, businesses don't want to break even. they want to make profits. It's likely that Sony was gunning for a revenue and sales of around $750 million, or without the DLC being released to justify another sequel. The problem with this is that way that the industry is working right now. These budgets will likely get worse. It's already rumored that the budget for Grand Theft Auto 6 has ballooned to about $1 billion, and while I don't think Take-Two will spend another $1 billion to market it, it will likely spend around $400 million to do so. That means for a game like Grand Theft Auto 6 to be sustainable and remain solvent with updates and to keep staff, it will likely need to sell around $2 billion. That's an estimate, by the way. This is why games aren't being more creative as they used to be in the PS1, PS2 era. Publishers want to reach the widest net possible to capture as much sales as it can. And this is mainly why I think a crash in the industry is coming in the next 10 years. Lack of creativity plus bloating budgets will likely lead to a catastrophic mess if the companies don't stop making them climb. And the final story, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella claims that he would love to get rid of console exclusives entirely. In his 9.5 years of CEO, Nadella said he operates on the philosophy that all Microsoft products should be available in as many places as possible. This is likely to rebuff the accusation that Sony has been stating that Microsoft will likely keep COD exclusive from PlayStation if the acquisition was allowed to go through. And while I have to admit that under Nadella's reign at Microsoft that this is how he has operated, I'm also pretty sure if it made business sense to lock down certain IPs to Microsoft only, he would more than likely do it. But hey, maybe we'll see Halo on a PlayStation console next generation? Yeah, I don't think so either. And with that, that is the end of the gaming news roundup and the end of this episode of I Am The Wiz. Saturday, Kim Shackman and I are reviewing Once, the musical romance from the 2000s. Sunday, I will have the Sunday matinee, and Monday, another gaming news roundup with the new releases of the week. And until then, I am The Wiz, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.